Yo, what's up everyone? Colby Cheese here with another video. This time going to be checking out a game called World of Tanks. This is going to be my kind of initial impressions of the game. I wanted to, try out every once in a while, try out these new multiplayer games because I'm always looking for new experiences and games that are up and coming and kind of pique my interest in a bit. Now this is an interesting take on a multiplayer arena shooter. It's just with, instead of people, it's with tanks. And it's vastly different than anything else that I've tried before, and there's all these different intricacies that are beyond just driving around and shooting guns out of a tank. It's definitely a game that has a huge learning curve, and it's very difficult for new players. So my initial thoughts after just a few matches of this game were, God damn it, it's pissing me off because I would roll around for a minute or two in each match, and then boom, out of nowhere, I'm just shot, and I don't know what killed me, and I'm dead, and I feel like, oh, I'm shooting at another tank, but I'm not doing any damage, but then he shoots me back, and I die in one hit. So there's all these things these are my initial thoughts as a new player, and it was a little bit hard to get into, but the reason I wanted to keep playing it is because normally whenever I get very frustrated with games like this, but then I keep playing, it's because I want to get good enough at the game so that I can go back and I can crush noobs that are as bad as I was when I first started. And I think that's part of my enjoyment with games like this, is the huge challenge to learning the game is very rewarding once you get over that hump and you start to begin to learn how the game works and how to overcome being terrible at it. So you start off, and there's all these different tiers of tanks that you can pick up. Whenever you first pick up the game, they start you off with like tier 1 and a couple tier 2 tanks, and you'll roll around and you'll just die a lot. Essentially, you're just cannon fodder. You'll run up, you'll scout enemies, and then you'll die, and then your teammates will probably finish the game. One interesting thing about it is that it's kind of the mode where you have one life and you're dead and you have to move on to the next match. So you roll around, you die. You can either sit there and you can spectate other people and watch how they play to kind of learn what the people that are staying alive are doing in order to actually be good at the game, or you can just go ahead and exit that match, go back to the garage, and you can pick from a different tank. So before I talk a little bit more about the gameplay, let's just go ahead and talk about the garage view and all the different tanks that this game has to offer, because I will be honest with you, World of Tanks is kind of a beautiful game. It does a very good job of adding in all of these different elements for you to choose from, and I want to just show you the complexities, and a lot of this stuff I don't even understand yet, but I do have an idea, so I'd like to kind of just give you a look at what you can go to expect as you get into the game later on. So here we are in the garage view. You can kind of roll around, and you get to scroll the camera. Take a look. I know it doesn't really look like a garage; it's like it's a street. But anyways, you get to look at the tanks. They're very detailed. It's really cool to look at, honestly. And there's all these tanks that I own right now, little wimpy mini tanks here. And it's kind of interesting. You'll see the tanks that have been in battle. But look at this: the tread's all jacked up. It's all blown up. There's like a big hole in the middle there. And so these are some of the tanks that got wrecked whenever I was in battle. And of course I can go and I can service it and I can repair it. So there's all these little details that are not present in a lot of other just basic shooting games. Now there's all these little upgrades you can get too. So I can take a look and look at all these different options for choosing turrets, guns, engines, treads. You can choose like a radio. You have different rounds of ammunition for armor piercing or for high explosives for lighter tanks versus heavy tanks. So there's all kinds of stuff in these services. You can get like fire extinguishers. You can train different crew members to do things. Sometimes you'll get shot in battle and lose your tread, and you're unable to move for a little bit until your crew members repair that and they can put out fires. There's all kinds of cool little things that are in the game. And then just in terms of upgrading your tanks, you've got all kinds of different tanks. You've got these heavy tanks, tank destroyers, SPG. I don't even know what SPG is, but it looks cool-ish. And there's like these artilleries you can get. I think these are artilleries maybe. And eventually you get up, you'll see the tanks are actually designed to work in a tiered system. So heavy tanks I think begin around tier 5. Right now I'm only up to around tier 2 or 3 in terms of upgrades. And it obviously takes longer and longer to upgrade, just as you would expect from any kind of like RPG type system. As this is a free-to-play game, you can of course advance yourself faster by paying real money, or you can just play for a really long time to get yourself up to those higher tiers. And in any case, I pretty much just click on a tank and I can look at the different stats. I can see the speed limit, the power, how fast it moves, and the damage per minute. All this different stuff is available to me. And essentially, it's very simple to get into a game though. Even if you don't want to look at all these different stats, you just click on a tank, go to battle, and boom, you're ready to go. Now, after you die in a battle and you want to move on to the next one without expecting anything else, you can come back to this garage and it'll show you if a tank's in battle. I don't have one in battle right now, but it'll show you if the tank is in battle, and you can just move on to a different tank. So that's kind of the idea behind how all of these different tanks, and then eventually you can upgrade yourself through the tech tree. So as you can see, there's so much to this game, and right now I think I've just started upgrading this tier 2 right here into the tier 3 tank, and then eventually you can see if I want to go to tier 4, I need to go down these upgrade paths through the engine, and so there's all these different ways of going about it. So combat in the game is pretty interesting. You kind of start off here on one side. Generally, I mean, there's different game modes, but generally what I've seen is that for the most part, you're going to have these modes where there's a flag on each end that you start at, and the idea behind it being get to the other side of the map and sit inside your enemy's flag area and try to capture it before they do the same to you, or just destroy all of the tanks on the map. So there's different strategies. If I were to assume here, which I am doing, a lot of your light tanks and smaller tanks that are in the lower tiers with the faster move speeds, their job's mostly going to be to strategically scout out your enemies so that your bigger tanks and your artillery will know where to shoot them at. Now obviously you want to try and stay alive, but sometimes you can suicide and still win a match. As far as the points that you win at the end of the match, you can die and leave the game within a few seconds, and then your team wins and you still get those win points. So the strategy is kind of up to you in that sense. You don't have to have, the highest kill score, or the most caps, or the last person alive in order to be successful in this game. The game is around winning, and whatever your strategy for winning is, you can employ that. And that's something that I at first did not really understand, and was kind of frustrating to me because I was this little light tank that can't really hurt other tanks, but I'm really fast, for example. So one of the things that I could have or should have probably been doing is running around trying to juke around the backside of a lot of these tanks and try to get to the enemy's base side, or just like find them instead of like sitting there trying to shoot them and not actually do any damage. And I can try other things. Now in this particular match that you're watching, this footage here, I was actually doing a pretty good job. I was able to come up and sneak up on this tank. It looks like he was kind of preoccupied with one of my allies up in the front. It looks like I blew up his tread so he wasn't able to move either, and so I finished him off. And I'm coming around the backside here, and you can kind of look at the mini map. You see where all of your allies are. I've already made it into the enemy's capture zone area, so I'm just going to hang out here and do my best to actually capture that enemy flag point. And you'll notice that we've actually got another ally here, so we're going to win this game before all of the tanks are destroyed. I'm going to do my best to take this guy out. I just saw him pop out around the corner, and he's starting to hit me back, but I've already got a lead on attacking him, and it seems like that was another tank similar to my power. Now, I've come up against tanks that have literally one-shot me in these little tiny tanks that I currently have, but you just kind of have to choose your battles wisely. Now, the aiming in the game is actually very difficult because of the fact that you are in a tank, and it's quite a bit of a sim in that sense. You can't just twitch, rotate, and shoot your gun. You actually have to wait for that turret rotation. You'll notice this little circle. Every time I move my view around, you can see this little circle kind of has to readjust itself, and the longer you focus on a point, the smaller that circle gets, which basically ensures that you will land a hit if that entire circle is within the hull of an enemy tank. Now, you don't always have that luxury. Sometimes you have to begin shooting earlier. Sometimes you need to move, and so like some of these more mobile tanks, I've actually seen skirmishes after I've died where, I mean, I'm not this good yet, but I've seen some of these smaller tanks kind of do this little 360 spin around tanks that are slower at rotating their turrets, and they'll just sit there and, they may not do a lot of damage, but they'll pop, 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 and just kind of pop them down. And there's like this auto aim feature, which if you lock on well enough just once, and then you can right click and it'll kind of do like a shitty aim, but still have a lock on, so you can kind of roll around and be very mobile while still shooting at that tank, and you may not hit every single strike, but either way it can work out. Now in this particular match, I'm trying to be sneaky. I'm trying to roll up this little hill, but you'll notice my tank has barely any move speed because it's trying to go up this hill, and I don't see anyone else on my map, and I'm trying to come around the backside, but boom, one shot. I just get hit from somewhere off on the map. I don't even know what hit me, to be honest. But that's kind of the thing you start to expect in this game, and you can't get too frustrated, which I have a tendency to do in games like this. I'm like, God dang it! It gets so frustrating. But you start to learn what to do and what not to do in the game, and I can see people that play this game have a lot of knowledge in it and what to do, and the different tanks that they've gotten and the different ammo and where to go and where not to go. So there's a lot to it, to really be honest with you guys. You can kind of hang out in bushes. It makes it harder for enemies to see you, and you can do some sneaky tactics like that where you just pop somebody off and they're like, whoa crap, where are they shooting me from? They have to find you and you're sneaky inside that bush. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff about it like that. Now, in terms of getting into the game, it is definitely, like I said, really hard to do because of all of these intricacies. So if you are looking for a very in-depth and kind of almost sim-like tank traversing shooting experience, this is probably the game for you. It's definitely not as action-packed and fast-paced as a lot of other shooters out there, but I think that's where it's trying to differentiate itself. It's trying to not follow the norm of most shooters and most arcade styles, and it's giving people who want that really in-depth look at the world of tanks a chance to experience that sort of gameplay. And I noticed they've actually done really well. There is a lot of changes to the game. I do recall actually checking the game out a really long time ago, and the changes that I've seen from a year or two ago to now have been quite large. In fact, the game looks beautiful in my opinion. I love the landscapes, and all of the terrain looks really great. The details on the tanks and the environments are just top notch in my opinion. So anyhow, I just thought it would be cool to give you guys kind of a look here, kind of a taste of World of Tanks, so you can see if you think it is a type of game that you would like to play. Of course, if you do want to play it, I'll go ahead and put a link down below. You can check the game out. It is free to play, and it will provide you a lot of hours of gameplay if you are into the whole upgrading your tank and getting all of the detailed customizations going and doing things just the way you like it. So let me know in the comments below if you play the game, and you can tell me how bad I am just from watching this short amount of gameplay footage that I provided with you with you guys here. So I guess just to end it off, I'm gonna try my best to kind of get over this little area. Seems like I was watching some of my other allies. They were rolling over those little metal objects. I guess I'm too small of a tank to actually get past those barricades, so I have to kind of figure out a way to roll up the cliff. I'm trying to get over this area, and I don't really know where the enemies are at, and I don't know if they're even in this area, but I'm seeing the enemy flag, and I want to get over to the enemy flag. So here we are. I'm just going to kind of roll down the cliff, and you can see I took a little tiny bit of damage. You can actually take quite a bit of damage if you roll off a larger cliff, of course, as you would expect in a tank. And oh, I'm already getting shot at. I'm going to try and hide in this bush. It doesn't really matter. They already see me, so I'm going to try and roll back. It doesn't look too good. I'm already kind of wrecked. And there we go. I'm dead. So there's World of Tanks for you guys. Give it a shot at your own risk, of course. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Colby Cheese. See you around next time. Peace out, bros.